The war arena of Karzun floated in silence above a dead moon, a massive ring of black metal and glowing energy fields. From far away, it looked like a crown placed gently in space. Up close, it was a place where honor, pride, and fear were broken every day. Inside the arena, thousands of alien spectators filled the rising tiers. Some had scales that reflected the lights. Some had glowing eyes. Others had wings folded tightly behind their backs. All of them had come for one reason: blood. At the center of the arena stood Princess Kelthyra of the Veshra, the undefeated warrior heir of her species. She was tall, broad-shouldered, and armored in living crystal that shifted color with her breath. Her long blade rested casually on her shoulder as if the fight had already ended. For Kelthyra, most fights did. She had defeated champions from 37 species. Some lasted seconds. A few lasted half a minute. None had ever lasted a full minute once she decided to end it. The crowd chanted her name in deep, rolling waves. Kelthyra, Kelthyra, she smiled, sharp teeth showing. Across the arena gates a much smaller figure waited, a human. The gates hissed open and Commander Elias Rook stepped onto the arena floor. There was a pause, then laughter. The human was short compared to most warriors present. No heavy armor, no glowing weapons, no visible energy shield. Just dark combat clothing, worn boots, and a calm face marked by old scars. Alien translators struggled to find the right tone for the laughter that followed. It was mocking, confused, amused. "This is the challenger," someone in the stand said loudly. "Is this a joke?" another asked. Kelthyra tilted her head slightly, studying the human. He did not raise his weapon. He did not bow. He did not speak. He simply stood there. That annoyed her. "So," Kelthyra said, her voice amplified across the arena, smooth and confident, "this is what humanity sends." Elias looked up at her, eyes steady. "Yes," he replied, more laughter. The High Arbiter, an ancient alien covered in ceremonial markings, floated above the arena on a platform of light. "By ancient law," the Arbiter announced, "this duel will decide the matter of Earth's refusal to submit to Veshru authority. Victory brings sovereignty. Defeat brings compliance." The Arbiter turned slightly toward Elias. "Human challenger, you may still withdraw." Elias shook his head once. "No," Kelthyra laughed openly now. "Brave," she said, stepping forward, claws scraping against the stone floor. "Or stupid." She activated her blade. Energy crackled along its edge, humming with lethal promise. "I will make this quick," she added, "for your dignity." Elias finally raised his weapon, a simple human combat blade dull by alien standards. No glow, no energy field. Kelthyra's smile widened. "Tell me, human," she said, "how long do you think you can last?" Elias thought for a moment. "As long as it takes," he said. The crowd roared with laughter again. Kelthyra turned toward the Arbiter and spread her arms slightly. "You may start the timer," she said proudly. "I give him 1 minute." The Arbiter nodded. "Combat will begin in 3, 2, 1. A loud tone echoed across the arena. The timer appeared above them, glowing bright. 0060. Kelthyra moved instantly. To alien eyes, she became a blur of motion, crossing the distance between them in less than a second. Her blade came down in a powerful arc meant to split the human in half. Elias moved, not fast enough to escape, but fast enough to survive. The blade struck his shoulder instead of his head, tearing through fabric and flesh. Blood sprayed across the arena floor. The crowd cheered. Kelthyra spun and kicked Elias across the arena. His body slammed into the stone wall hard enough to crack it. He dropped to one knee, breathing hard. The timer ticked down. 0054. Stand still, Kelthyra said, approaching calmly. "This will be easier." Elias pushed himself up slowly. His shoulder burned with pain. His vision blurred for a moment, but he stayed standing. "I'm fine," he said. The crowd laughed again, but some of it sounded uncertain now. Kelthyra struck again, faster this time. Elias barely blocked, the impact sending shockwaves through his arms. He slid backward, boots scraping sparks from the stone. 0047. Kelthyra frowned slightly. "You are slower than me," she said. "Weaker, smaller." She lunged again. Elias dodged by a hair. The blade passed close enough that the air itself burned his skin. He countered with a strike aimed at her leg. It bounced harmlessly off her armor. Kelthyra laughed, pathetic. She slammed her fist into his chest. Elias flew backward again, rolling across the floor before stopping near the center of the arena. 0038. The laughter in the stand softened. Elias coughed, blood on his lips. He forced himself to stand again. His body screamed at him to stop. He ignored it. Kelthyra tilted her head. "Why?" she asked, genuine curiosity in her voice now. "Why keep standing?" Elias wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. "Because," he said, breathing hard, "humans don't quit." Kelthyra narrowed her eyes. She attacked again, unleashing a rapid series of strikes meant to overwhelm him. Elias blocked some, dodged others, and took the rest full on. Each hit knocked the breath from him. Each impact sent pain through his bones. Still, he stayed upright. 0029. The arena had gone quiet. Alien sensors flickered, confused by what they were seeing. The human's vitals were terrible, broken ribs, internal bleeding, muscle damage. And yet he moved. Kelthyra's smile faded. "This should be over," she muttered. She gathered energy into her blade, preparing a finishing strike. Elias saw it coming. He raised his guard, feet planted firmly. The blade hit. The force sent him sliding across the arena, carving a deep groove into the stone floor. He came to a stop at the very edge of the combat zone. For a moment he did not move. The crowd leaned forward. Kelthyra exhaled, satisfied. Then Elias pushed himself up again, slowly, shaking, but standing. 0017. A low murmur spread through the stands. "That's impossible." "He should be dead." Kelthyra stared at the human, something cold settling in her chest. She had fought warriors stronger than him, faster than him, smarter than him. None of them looked like this. Bruised, bleeding, unbroken. "You're stubborn," she said quietly. Elias met her gaze. "So are you," he replied. The timer ticked down. 0010. Kelthyra tightened her grip on her blade. She stepped forward, ready to end it. But for the first time since she had entered the arena, she felt something unfamiliar. Not fear, but doubt. Because the minute she promised had not ended yet, and the human was still standing. The arena seemed to hold its breath. The once laughing crowd now whispered in confusion. The alien princess, Kelthyra, stared at the human before her, Commander Elias Rook. Every fiber of her being told her this should be over. Every strike she had landed should have ended him. Yet he still stood. Pain marked his face, blood streaked across his chest and arms, but his eyes were steady, unwavering. The Veshra princess had fought dozens of warriors like this, powerful, skilled, disciplined. But they had all fallen, not him. "Impressive, stubborn," Kelthyra muttered. Her voice carried across the arena, cold and sharp. "But stubbornness won't save you." Elias only blinked, taking a slow breath. His chest rose and fell as if every inhale burned, but he stood straight, meeting her gaze. "I'm still here," he said simply. The timer above them glowed 0059. The crowd gasped. They had expected him to fall instantly. Now the impossible was happening. Kelthyra's expression hardened. She had underestimated humans. She had dismissed them as fragile and slow. But this one, he was different. Something about the way he bore the pain, the way he refused to break, it was unnerving. She lunged forward, a blur of deadly motion. Her crystal blade sang through the air with lethal precision. Each swing was designed to end the fight. Elias ducked, rolled, and twisted, narrowly avoiding each strike. He moved clumsily at first, but as the fight went on, his dodges became sharper, his counters smarter. 0053. Kelthyra paused mid-strike. Her instincts screamed that she was facing something unusual. Humans, in her experience, were fragile. But this one, he learned from pain. He adapted. The crowd had gone silent. Even the Veshran nobles, the most skilled combatants in the stands, were watching in disbelief. This human, this fragile creature, had survived more than half a minute against their greatest champion. Kelthira decided to change tactics. She would test him, not just his strength or speed, but his mind. She struck again, but this time she feinted left and swung right, trying to trick him. Elias hesitated for a fraction of a second, but he learned quickly. Humans were not the strongest, not the fastest. But they endured. They learned. And he had enough experience in combat to see patterns, to read motion, to anticipate. He dodged the feint, landing a weak counter on her leg. The armor absorbed most of it, but Kelthira felt it. A minor annoyance, yes, but it told her he was not simply surviving. He was fighting back. 00:47. The arena floor quaked under her next series of attacks. She moved faster than the eye could follow, a storm of crystal and energy. Elias took each strike, barely moving his body out of the path of destruction. His arms were scraped, his side bruised, but he stayed upright. The crowd whispered in awe. This was no ordinary human. Some speculated he might be genetically enhanced. Others thought it was luck. But Kelthira knew the truth. Humans were unpredictable, and their strength was not in speed or raw power. It was in endurance, in spirit. She shifted again, using her wings to vault into the air, attempting a strike from above. Elias rolled away just in time. He came up running toward her, not to attack, but to force her to adjust, to keep her moving. He was learning her rhythm. Kelthira froze midair. He wasn't just dodging, he was observing, calculating, adapting. Every time she struck, he moved slightly differently, always surviving, always forcing her to change. 00:39. She landed behind him, swinging her blade in a deadly arc. Elias twisted under it and slammed a weak punch to her side. She spun away, surprised at the force. Her armor shimmered where he had struck, a tiny mark, but it told her he was not weak. Kelthira clenched her jaw. Humans, she muttered. Fragile, yes, but relentless. Elias struggled to keep his footing. His body screamed at him to stop. Pain radiated through every limb, and yet he stood. His face was pale, bloodied, and bruised, but his eyes burned with determination. The timer ticked down. 00:32. Only 30 seconds left. Kelthira increased her speed, moving in a blur. She activated her energy enhancements, sending pulses of power into her strikes. Each attack was meant to break him, end him instantly. Elias barely dodged the first strike, but the second caught him square on the shoulder, knocking him off balance. He hit the floor hard. The crowd gasped. He should have been done. He pushed himself up again, grit on his teeth, ignoring the pain. His side burned. His ribs were cracked. One eye was swelling shut, yet he stayed standing. Kelthira's confusion grew. She had faced warriors stronger, faster, smarter than him. They had all fallen in seconds. Why was this human still alive? The answer was simple. Humans didn't quit. They didn't give up. They endured. Kelthira struck again, faster than before, trying to overwhelm him completely. Elias staggered, but this time he was not running. He faced her. He lifted his blade in a weak guard and took the hits. 00:25. The crowd was silent now, some aliens even whispering fearfully. Humans had never survived this long in recorded duels. This human, this fragile, weak human, was standing against the might of a princess. Kelthira's strikes became more precise, more controlled. She wanted to end it. She wanted to break him. But she noticed something terrifying. Every strike she landed taught him. Every time she attacked, he adjusted. Every time she moved, he learned. By now, Elias was moving differently. His steps were lighter, his dodges sharper. He was still bleeding, still injured, but he was becoming better with every second. Kelthira felt a chill down her spine. The fight was slipping out of her control. She had expected to kill him in under a minute, yet the human was still standing. 00:17. She leapt high into the air, preparing a strike designed to end everything. Elias tilted his body just slightly, letting the blade pass inches from his chest. He rolled forward, landing behind her. For a moment, Kelthara froze. He had learned her timing, her patterns, her weaknesses. He was small, weak by alien standards, but smart, patient, and relentless. She realized something she had never known before. Humans did not fight like other species. They survived by refusing to die, by refusing to quit. 10 Elias coughed, blood in his mouth, bruised and battered, but he stood upright. His chest heaved, every breath a struggle, yet he looked at Kelthira and smiled faintly. "You're strong," he said, voice strained. "But you can't stop me." Kelthira narrowed her eyes. No one had ever spoken to her like that in the arena. No one had ever survived like this. 0005, she moved faster, faster than she ever had. She spun, slashed, struck, aiming to end the fight now. But he was ready. He anticipated her moves, countering when he could, dodging when he had to, enduring every strike she threw. 0002, the arena seemed to hold its breath. Every alien in the stands froze. Even the High Arbiter seemed shocked. The timer hit 0000. Elia's rook was still standing. Kelthira staggered back, her chest heaving. For the first time, she felt something she had never felt in battle: fear, not for her life but for her pride. The crowd erupted, not in cheering but in stunned silence followed by whispers of disbelief. This human had survived a full minute against the undefeated Princess Kelthira. Kelthira's sharp teeth gleamed as she whispered, almost to herself, "Impossible, how?" Elias wiped blood from his lips and took a deep breath. He was exhausted. Every part of his body screamed at him to stop. But he had one thought: humans endure, and he had survived 1 minute. Kelthira stared at him, her pride wounded, her mind racing. She had faced kings, soldiers, mercenaries, warriors from countless worlds. None had survived this long. None had refused to die. And yet this human, fragile, small, seemingly weak, stood before her, undefeated. The silence of the arena was deafening. Even the distant stars outside seemed to hold their breath. Kelthira, the undefeated Veshra princess, had never been defeated. She had never even faced a fight that lasted a full minute. Yet here she stood, bruised, tired, and staring at a human who had refused to fall. Commander Elias Rook looked back at her, his chest rising and falling with labored breaths. His body was battered, cuts and bruises covering him, but his eyes were sharp, focused, and full of a strange, quiet confidence. He was still standing. And Kelthira felt something she had never felt before, the first hint of fear. She had tested him, beaten him, and yet he had survived. And now, she realized that surviving was only the beginning. Elias shifted slightly on the arena floor, moving with a strange grace. His breathing, though harsh, was measured. His stance no longer just defensive. His eyes followed Kelthira with a predator's focus. For a human, he had endured more than any alien would think possible. But now he was learning her patterns, observing her movements, her timing, her weaknesses, and he was ready to act. Kelthira moved first, as always. She lunged with her crystal blade, a strike meant to pierce the human's heart. Elias barely moved in time, twisting aside and letting the blade pass inches from his chest. He landed on his feet and immediately moved forward, putting pressure on the princess. He was no longer just defending. He was hunting. The Veshra princess froze for a fraction of a second. The human was small, weak, unarmored, yet he was controlling the pace of the fight. He was not reacting blindly. He was thinking, calculating, and adapting. Every movement he made seemed to anticipate her strikes. Kelthira's confidence wavered. She had faced countless opponents stronger than humans. They fell like leaves in the wind. But this one was different. Elias attacked, not with raw strength, not with a series of desperate strikes, but with calculated precision. Each blow was weak by alien standards, but it was aimed to force her off balance, to test her reactions, to teach him her rhythm. The crowd leaned forward in awe. Even the oldest Veshra generals whispered among themselves. This was unprecedented. A human, this small and fragile, was not only surviving, they were turning the fight around. Kelthira's blade hummed as she launched another series of rapid attacks. Elias blocked and dodged with growing skill. The human's movements were no longer clumsy. Each roll, each jump, each swing of his arms had purpose. Each strike he took taught him something new. Kelthira realized the truth. Humans survived wars not by being the fastest or the strongest, but by refusing to quit. Their strength came from their resilience and intelligence under pressure. Elias pressed forward. He did not strike to kill, but to force mistakes. He used her energy against her, sidestepping at the perfect moment so her blade's power would throw her off balance. When she lunged too far, he pivoted and struck her armor with a weak punch, barely making a mark, but enough to test her reaction. The princess, for the first time, felt unsettled. She had never faced an opponent like this. Her victories had always been absolute. Now the human's endurance, patience, and intelligence were starting to frustrate her. The timer above ticked down 00:45. They were well past 1 minute now. Kelthira's pride burned. She had promised victory in a single minute, and that promise had been broken. She leapt into the air, aiming a devastating overhead strike. Elias rolled aside, letting her momentum carry her past him. He landed lightly, his body battered but controlled. Then he struck. Not a full-power blow, not a killing strike. A simple, precise kick to her side armor. The impact staggered her just enough. He was exploiting every tiny opening, turning her own speed and strength against her. Kelthira took a step back, chest rising rapidly. Her breathing was uneven. She realized that the human had learned something she had never taught him. He had learned to anticipate her attacks, to move with her rhythm, and now he was dictating the fight. Elias' face was streaked with blood. His clothes were torn. His body was bruised, but his eyes glimmered with the dangerous calm of a predator. He had endured. Now he would strike at the right moment. Kelthira swung again, faster than ever. Elias dodged, blocked, and countered in a blur of motion. He didn't hit with power, just enough to test, to probe, to find the gaps. Every strike from him, small as it seemed, forced her to adjust. The alien princess felt something she had never expected: doubt. Her mind, trained for a lifetime of victories, now questioned itself. She began calculating, second-guessing, hesitating for the briefest moments, enough for Elias to notice. He pressed the advantage. Not with strength, but with relentless pressure. Humans, he knew, survived because they never stopped trying, even when they were weak. And Kelthira was now showing cracks. She was humanly fallible. 00:30, the arena seemed to shrink around them. Kelthira struck. Elias dodged. He pivoted, using her own energy and speed against her. She stumbled. He struck her side lightly again, testing, learning. The Veshra princess, proud and lethal, now had to respect the human. She could feel it. This opponent was not just surviving. He was teaching her a lesson she hadn't known she needed. Kelthira's strikes became more controlled, more defensive. She began to analyze, calculating every step, every swing, every thrust. She had fought kings, generals, beasts stronger than herself. None had adapted so quickly. Elias' breathing was heavy. Blood ran down his face. Every muscle in his body ached. Yet he moved with growing precision. Every dodge, every roll, every weak strike was learning her. The crowd watched, enthralled and terrified. A human had survived not just a minute, but was now turning the fight against the princess. No species in recorded history had done this. Kelthira leapt high again, aiming a spinning strike meant to crush him instantly. Elias anticipated it. He sidestepped, grabbed a hold of her momentum, and twisted. The princess nearly lost her balance. She stumbled and hit the ground hard. For the first time in her life, Kelthira felt fear for herself. The arena erupted into shocked whispers. The human was not just surviving. He was dominating the flow of the fight. The princess's pride, her undefeated record, was at risk. Elias took a deep breath. Every joint, every muscle, every nerve in his body screamed in pain, but his mind was sharp, focused, and calm. Humans endured suffering to learn, to adapt, to win. Kelthyra had learned that the hard way now. She rose, shaking with rage and exhaustion. Her wings twitched, energy crackling through her blade. She attacked with everything she had, faster and stronger than ever. But Elias moved with a predator's patience. He anticipated her overextensions, dodged her strikes, and countered at the exact moments that forced her to stagger. 0-0. 15 Kelthyra's armor had scratches now, small dents. Her energy pulses burned more of her stamina than she expected. She realized that she had underestimated humans. Not just weak, fragile humans, but resilient, clever, unstoppable humans. Elias, battered, bleeding, and bruised, looked at her. He was no longer just defending. He was in control of the fight. He understood her rhythm, her limits, her pride, and he would not give in. The alien princess felt something she had never felt before: respect, fear, awe. The human had revealed the true nature of his species. They survived by enduring the impossible. They fought by refusing to quit. They were predators in the long game. 0-0. 0-5 Kelthyra lunged one last time, hoping to end the fight decisively. Elias sidestepped, blocked, and grabbed a hold of her wrist. He twisted her momentum against her, forcing her off balance. She fell to her knees, stunned. The crowd gasped. No one had ever seen the undefeated Kelthyra on the ground. Elias took a careful step back, still bleeding, still battered, still human. He did not strike to kill. He did not gloat, he simply stood. The Veshra princess looked up at him, her chest heaving, her pride shattered, her mind racing. She had underestimated humanity. She had underestimated him. And now she knew. Humans survive because they refuse to die, and when pushed far enough, they become unstoppable predators. The timer above flashed 0-0, 0-0, but that was meaningless now. Time had become irrelevant. The human had revealed his true strength, not in speed, not in power, but in patience, resilience, and cunning. Kelthyra slowly rose to her feet, her eyes wide. She had faced countless warriors. None had taught her what this human had taught her in a single fight. Elias wiped blood from his mouth, standing tall despite his injuries. He had endured, learned, and adapted. The predator within him had been revealed. The arena fell silent. The alien spectators stared, unable to comprehend what they had just witnessed. The undefeated Veshra princess had met a human, and she had seen firsthand the danger of underestimating them. Kelthyra's pride would never be the same, and for the first time she felt fear, not of death but of losing. The arena was silent, not a whisper, not a breath. Every alien eye was on the two figures in the center. The undefeated Princess Kelthyra, the most feared warrior in the galaxy, knelt on the stone floor, her chest heaving, energy barely flickering in her crystal armor. Opposite her stood Commander Elias Rook, a human, battered, bleeding, but upright and steady. He had endured, he had adapted, and now he held the arena in awe. For a moment neither moved. Kelthyra's pride fought against the reality before her. She had trained her entire life to be unbeatable. She had never faced an opponent like this, a human who could endure, who could learn, who could survive the impossible. Elias took a step forward. His body screamed in pain with each motion. His ribs were cracked, one shoulder nearly dislocated, but his eyes were calm and steady. Every step was careful, measured. Every breath was controlled. He was human. But he had become something more, a symbol of resilience, determination, and the unstoppable spirit of his species. Kelthyra's claws twitched. Her pride demanded she strike again, end this humiliation, and reclaim her honor. But as she looked into Elias' eyes, she saw something she had never seen before in an opponent: respectful strength. "You survived," she said, voice low and full of disbelief. "You endured." "How?" Elias wiped blood from his mouth. Because humans never give up. Not when it matters. Not when we're standing face to face with something stronger than us. Not when everyone says we can't. Her eyes widened. She had fought kings, generals, mercenaries, beasts. All had fallen. None had spoken with such confidence while bleeding, battered, and exhausted. She realized with a chill in her chest that this human was not afraid, not of her, not of death, not of defeat. The crowd leaned forward, alien whispers filling the arena. The unthinkable had happened. The human had survived the undefeated princess. And now he was standing, not just surviving but commanding attention, respect, and awe. Kelthira rose slowly, her blade still in hand but her movements cautious. She no longer attacked recklessly. Each step was calculated, defensive. She had underestimated humans. She had underestimated Elias. And now she knew she was no longer in complete control. Elias did not charge. He did not gloat. He simply stood, steady and calm, letting his endurance speak louder than words. He knew that strength alone could not defeat a warrior like Kelthira. Strategy, patience, and intelligence were his tools. The timer above the arena blinked. 01:30. Not a record, but irrelevant. Elias had already broken every expectation. Kelthira attacked again, slower this time. Each strike was precise, careful. She tried to force him into mistakes. But Elias had learned, adapted, and now he was reading her as she read him. Each movement, each feint, each swing of her blade became predictable under his careful observation. He sidestepped her strike, grabbed her momentum, and twisted. She staggered, barely keeping her balance. A gasp went through the crowd. The princess, undefeated for decades, was faltering. Kelthira's chest heaved. Sweat mixed with blood ran down her face. Her pride demanded she strike again. Her instincts screamed to win. But she was learning, painfully, that humans were unlike anything she had ever faced. They endured, adapted, and then they struck at the perfect moment. Elias moved forward, careful and deliberate. He did not strike to kill. He did not need to. Every movement he made was designed to force Kelthira to realize her vulnerability. Each dodge, each roll, each counterstrike reminded her that humans were unpredictable. They did not give up. They did not submit. Kelthira took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She had never faced a species that could endure this long. She had never faced an individual who could survive not just physical pain, but the mental pressure of facing an unbeatable warrior. She had underestimated humanity, and that mistake could cost her more than pride. Elias' eyes burned with determination. He had endured 1 minute. He had survived, learned, and adapted. And now it was time to claim victory, not through brute strength but through cleverness and strategy. He moved toward Kelthira, careful to stay just out of reach of her strikes. She lunged again, energy crackling from her blade. He ducked under, twisted around her, and forced her forward into a stumble. For the first time in her life, Kelthira fell fully to her knees. The crowd gasped, silence filling the arena. No one had ever seen the undefeated princess in such a position. Elias did not strike. He did not gloat. He simply stood before her, bloodied, battered, and victorious through endurance and cleverness alone. His presence was calm, almost respectful. Kelthira's chest heaved. Pride and disbelief warred within her. She had underestimated the human. She had underestimated the strength of his species. She had thought victory would be easy. She had been wrong. She looked up at him. Her sharp teeth glinted in the arena lights. "You have shown me something I never expected," she said, voice low and almost reverent. "Humans, you endure, you adapt, you survive." Elias nodded once. "We do, that's what we do best. We survive, we endure, and we fight back when no one expects it." Kelthira slowly lowered her blade. For the first time she yielded, not in defeat of her body but in acknowledgement of human spirit. The arena held its breath as the moment sank in. The crowd erupted, not in cheers but in stunned awe. Aliens who had witnessed centuries of battles had never seen anything like this. The undefeated princess had been bested, not by overwhelming strength, but by human resilience and cleverness. Elias straightened, pain radiating through every movement, but his spirit remained unbroken. He had turned a fight that should have ended in seconds into a legendary victory of endurance and strategy. Kelthyra rose fully, blade lowered, and extended a hand. Elias looked at it. He knew this was a gesture of respect. Slowly, he took her hand. The arena went silent for a moment, then erupted into whispers and murmurs of admiration. The High Arbiter floated above, voice echoing in the arena. By the rules of combat, the human challenger has endured beyond expectation and has earned the respect of the Veshra. Let it be known across the galaxy that humanity is not to be underestimated. Alien nobles whispered, some nervously, others excitedly. The name Elias Rook would be remembered across star systems. He had not only survived against the greatest warrior of the Veshra, but had proven humanity's strength, the power to endure, adapt, and prevail against impossible odds. Kelthyra stepped back, breathing heavily, still processing what had happened. She had been taught that victory was always hers. She had never faced a species so relentless. Now she understood the lesson humans carried. Strength is not always in power, but in will, patience, and endurance. The crowd slowly erupted into applause, though some aliens were still in shock. Across the stands, species who had dismissed humanity now whispered warnings. Earth, a small, seemingly weak planet, had produced warriors capable of challenging even the greatest champions of the galaxy. Kelthyra's eyes softened slightly. "You have earned more than victory," she said. "You have earned my respect. I underestimated your species. I will not make that mistake again." Elias nodded, exhaustion heavy on his body but pride steady in his heart. "Humans survive," he said. "That's what we do." The arena's energy field slowly deactivated. The fight was over. Humanity had won, not through sheer power but through the unbreakable spirit of a single human, and the galaxy had seen it. Broadcasts from the arena spread across the stars. Every system that watched knew the message: never underestimate a human. Their strength was not just physical, it was endurance, courage, adaptability, and intelligence under pressure. The phrase, "you can't last a minute against me," became a warning, not a boast, now associated with humanity's resilience. Kelthyra turned, her mind racing. She had fought countless battles, defeated countless enemies, but none had taught her what she had learned in these few minutes. Humans, she realized, were not weak. They were not fragile. They were predators of patience and endurance, capable of surviving what no one else could. Elias Rook, wounded and weary, walked from the arena floor. Every step carried the weight of his injuries, but also the pride of representing his species. Humanity had proven itself, not through domination, but through survival, endurance, and intelligence. The legend of this fight would echo through the galaxy. Stories of the human who survived Kelthyra, the undefeated princess, would inspire fear, respect, and admiration. Aliens would speak of the human spirit as something not to be challenged lightly. And as for Kelthyra, she would never forget this day. A day when a single human changed her understanding of the galaxy. A day when she learned the true power of humanity, the refusal to give up, the will to endure, and the cunning to turn the impossible into reality. In that arena, on that silent moon, a simple truth became clear. Humans don't need to be the strongest to survive. They only need enough will, enough patience, and enough courage to endure. And Elias Rook had shown the galaxy just how unstoppable humans could be.